Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping back to the year 1519. We're going to explore a really intense and world-changing moment, the first meeting between the Aztec Empire and the Spanish conquistadors. What happened when these two worlds collided would literally reshape the Americas forever.
So, try to picture it. The year is 1519. Deep in what we now call Mexico, you've got the incredible Aztec Empire, this huge, sophisticated civilization. But then, sailing over the horizon, come these ships that look like nothing anyone there has ever seen before. And they're carrying Spanish conquerors, armed with steel, guns, and a serious thirst for gold and glory.
To really get the shock of this moment, we're not going to start on the Spanish ships. Nope. We're starting in the amazing Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. We're going to see this whole thing through the eyes of the most powerful person around, Emperor Moctezuma.
So, Emperor Moctezuma was, well, he was pretty stressed out. For months, these strange rumors had been trickling in from the edges of his empire. The stories were about these mysterious visitors, and he had a massive decision to make. Were these strangers a threat he needed to crush, or were they something else entirely?
The stories his messengers brought back were just baffling. They were talking about men in shiny metal clothes, arriving in boats as big as mountains. They said they rode on these animals that looked like giant deer and carried sticks that shot fire. You can imagine the question racing through Moctezuma's mind. Are these guys gods I should be worshiping, or are they invaders I should be really scared of?
Okay, so now let's flip the script. Let's leave the Emperor's palace and step onto the deck of one of those strange ships. It's time to meet the man in charge of this whole expedition, a very driven, very ambitious adventurer from Spain named Hernán Cortés.
You gotta understand, Cortés was a product of his time. This was Renaissance Spain. He was restless, he was ambitious, and he grew up hearing all these stories about the amazing riches Columbus had found. So at just 19 years old, he sailed off to the New World, totally determined to make a name for himself.
And he was super clear about his motivation right from the beginning. When he first got to the Caribbean, someone offered him a nice, quiet farm. But he wasn't having it. He pretty much said, "Thanks, but no thanks. I came to get gold, not to till the land like a peasant." He was there for wealth. Period.
I mean, the name Cortés and his men used for themselves tells you everything you need to know. Conquistador. It literally means conqueror. Their goal wasn't just to explore or to trade. It was conquest.
And here's the thing. The Spanish weren't just sailing in and hoping for the best. They showed up in Mexico with a strategy they had already perfected. They had a step-by-step playbook for how to take over.
And this was it. This was their 5-step formula for invasion. First, you start from a colony you already have. Second, you find the most powerful local group, maybe by making friends with their enemies. Third, and this is key, you kidnap their leader. Fourth, you use your technology to win big on the battlefield. And finally, you make yourself the new boss. See? This wasn't random. It was a plan.
And just to prove how serious he was, Cortés did something truly incredible. After they landed, he ordered his men to burn their own ships. The message couldn't have been clearer. There's no going back. It's either victory or it's death.
Now, let's be clear, the Aztecs were a serious military power. They had a big, well-organized army, but this showdown between two worlds was never, ever going to be a fair fight. And the biggest reason why came down to technology.
Let's just compare their main weapons. The Aztecs had this powerful war club, edged with super sharp volcanic glass. It could do a lot of damage, for sure, but it was heavy, and it could actually shatter against Spanish steel armor. The Spanish, on the other hand, had steel swords. They were sharp on both sides, light enough to use with one hand, which left the other hand free for a shield. Big difference.
And from a distance, it was the same story. The Aztecs used something called an atlatl, which is basically a spear thrower. It could launch a spear with deadly force. But the Spanish had crossbows that could fire a metal bolt with so much power it could punch right through Aztec armor.
And the tech gap just gets wider. The Spanish had war horses, creating these terrifying cavalry charges against soldiers who had never even seen a horse before. They had gunpowder, muskets, and cannons that exploded with thunder and smoke and death. For the Aztecs, this wasn't just fighting another army. It was like fighting a force of nature.
So the end result of this conflict, plus the horrible impact of diseases like smallpox that the Spanish brought with them, was the complete destruction of the Aztec Empire. But that brings up a really fascinating question. How do we remember the guy who led the conquest, Hernán Cortés, today?
You know, the way we see people from the past isn't permanent. It can change a lot, depending on our own values And who's telling the story? How we remember someone from history often says more about us than it does about them.
And check this out, this is a perfect example. We've got two pictures of the exact same man. On the left, from 1529, a portrait that the King of Spain paid for. It shows Cortés looking like a noble, confident conqueror. But then on the right, from 1951, a mural by the famous Mexican artist Diego Rivera shows him as this ugly, greedy monster.
So why are they so different? Well, it all comes down to the artists and their motivations. The first guy was paid by the Spanish king to paint a hero who gave him an empire. The second artist, Diego Rivera, was a Mexican hero himself, and he was painting to honor his people and their suffering. Same man, two totally different stories.
So all of this leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. They say history is written by the winners, right? But it's also rewritten by their descendants. So what makes someone a hero? And what makes someone a villain? And when we decide to judge people from the past, what does that judgment really tell us about ourselves today?
I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine you are the ruler of, well, the entire known world. You're in a palace with these amazing botanical gardens, birds you've never seen before, walls just covered in gold. You rule millions of people, and they treat you like a god.
Sounds pretty good so far.
Right. But tonight, you can't sleep. You're just pacing. It's 1519. You are Moctezuma, Emperor of the Aztecs, and you are terrified.
Because the reports are coming in.
Exactly. Messengers have arrived from the coast with news that it doesn't make any sense. They're saying mountains are moving on the water.
Ships.
And that men with skin as pale as chalk are riding these giant deer that make the ground shake.
It really does sound like the opening of a thriller, doesn't it? But this was real. This was the beginning of, one of the most consequential meetings in all of human history.
We're talking about the collision between the Spanish Empire led by Hernán Cortés and the Aztec Empire under Moctezuma.
And our mission for this deep dive is to solve a math problem that honestly, on paper, looks completely impossible.
That's exactly what I thought. You have this guy, Cortés, who shows up with what? 500 soldiers?
Roughly, yeah. About 500 men.
500 guys. And they somehow topple a civilization of millions, an empire with a huge disciplined army. How does that happen?
It's like a high school football team beating a pro team. It just doesn't add up.
So to figure it out, we've gone through the historical records, soldier diaries from guys like Bernal Diaz, and even the Aztecs' own accounts from the Florentine Codex. We're unpacking a deadly meeting.
And to really gut how this all fell apart, you have to start with the two leaders, the two men at the center of it all. It's a fundamental clash of worldviews.
Okay, so let's start with the challenger, Hernán Cortés. He's this legendary figure now, but who was he back then? Was he some famous general?
Not at all, and that's what makes it so wild. He was a bit of a delinquent, actually. Only 19 when he left Spain.
19.
Yeah. The records describe him as restless, haughty, even mischievous. Apparently, he was causing his parents so much trouble, he decided to go seek his fortune just to, get away.
So he's basically a teenager looking for trouble. What pushes a kid like that across an ocean? Just adventure.
Well, people talk about the 3 Gs for the conquistadors: gold, glory, and God. And yeah, God was part of it. He felt he had a divine mission. Glory was part of it. But let's be real.
It was mostly about the gold.
It was mostly about the gold. There's this great story where he gets to the Caribbean and the governor offers him a big plot of land to farm. A nice, stable life.
It sounds like a pretty good deal.
For most people, yeah. But Cortés just scoffed at it. He's quoted as saying, "I came to get gold, not to till the land like a peasant."
Wow. Okay. So he's not there to settle. He's there to conquer.
Exactly. And that ambition leads to one of the most unhinged moments in military history, the famous burn the boats moment.
Right. I've heard this phrase, but what actually happened? Did he just light them all on fire?
That's the popular myth. He didn't actually burn them, he scuttled them. He had his men drill holes in the hulls of 10 of his ships and just sank them.
Wait, he stranded his own army on a hostile continent. If I'm one of his soldiers, I'm thinking he's lost his mind.
You're panicking for sure, but you're also realizing something very, very clearly.
There's no way home.
There is no going back. The only way out is forward. He made retreat physically impossible. It was either win or die right there.
That is an intense leadership strategy.
Now, contrast that all-in, aggressive mindset with Emperor Moctezuma. When he hears about these strangers, his first reaction isn't to attack, it's hesitation.
But why? He has thousands of warriors. He could have just crushed these 500 guys on the beach.
Because his worldview was totally different. The Aztecs were deeply religious. They believed in omens and prophecies. Moctezuma just wasn't sure what he was looking at. Is this a man, a return god?
So he hedges his bets.
He goes for a wait-and-see approach. He sends ambassadors out to meet them with gifts.
And sending treasure to a guy who openly says he's only there for gold seems like a huge mistake.
Yeah. It's tragic. He was trying to pay them to leave, but he was actually showing them exactly why they had to stay. He was confirming all the rumors of immense wealth.
And that leads to the moment they actually meet, and Moctezuma welcomes Cortés right into the capital city, Tenochtitlan.
He treats him like a visiting lord. He says something like, "You have come to rest beneath your canopy." It's an incredible welcome.
And how did the Spanish repay this hospitality?
They immediately take Moctezuma hostage in his own palace, and then they start looting the treasury.
Okay, but this is where the math breaks down for me again. You've got the leader, fine. But you're still just 500 guys in a city of, what, 200,000 angry people.
And that brings us to the second huge factor, the technology gap. This wasn't just a battle of will, it was, frankly, an unequal fight.
But let's do the breakdown. The armory.
Yeah.
What were the Aztecs fighting with?
So their main weapon was something called a war club. It was heavy, two-handed, and edged with obsidian, volcanic glass.
I've heard obsidian is incredibly sharp.
Sharper than steel, actually. It could slice right through the padded cotton armor the Aztecs wore. It could even decapitate a horse. And this is the crucial part, it's brittle. It's glass.
So if you hit it against Spanish steel,
it shatters, exactly. The Spanish had meter-long steel swords that could slash and stab all day, and they had halberds.
what's a halberd?
Imagine a spear that's over 2 meters long, but on the end, you have a spear point, an axe blade, and a hook.
It's like a Swiss Army knife for battle.
Pretty much. They could keep the Aztecs at a distance, hook them, chop them. The Aztecs just couldn't get close.
What about ranged weapons?
Right.
The Aztecs must have had bows and arrows.
They did, but they also had something called an atlatl. It's a spear thrower. It's like a lever for your arm that lets you throw a spear with way more force.
Kind of like those plastic things you use to throw a tennis ball for a dog.
Exactly the same principle, and it was deadly. But again, against Spanish steel armor, the spears would just bounce off. Meanwhile, the Spanish had crossbows.
Which could punch right through the Aztec armor.
Right through it. And then you have the real psychological weapons.
So like guns.
Muskets and cannons, you have to put yourself in their shoes. The Aztecs had never seen or heard gunpowder. When a cannon fires, it's not just a weapon, it's thunder, it's lightning.
The accounts say the ambassadors literally jumped into the sea. They were so scared.
They were terrified. And that terror was amplified by the other secret weapon.
Giant deer.
The horses. It's hard for us to grasp, but horses were extinct in the Americas. No one had ever seen one.
So what did they think they were seeing?
The Florentine Codex describes them as stags that snort and bellow and sweat in streams. To an Aztec soldier, a Spanish cavalryman didn't look like a man on a horse. It looked like one single terrifying monster.
And Cortés knew this. He used it.
Oh, he was a master of psychological warfare. He'd put bells on the horses to make them louder. He'd gallop them in front of messengers just to intimidate them.
Okay, but still, steel, guns, horses, it's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But 500 men against an entire empire, you run out of bullets eventually. Something else has to be at play.
There was. The factor that killed more Aztecs than any sword or cannon, the invisible army.
Disease.
Smallpox.
Specifically, a virgin soil epidemic.
What does that mean, virgin soil?
It means the population had zero immunity. None. Europeans had lived with smallpox for centuries, so many had some level of resistance. The Aztecs. Their bodies had never encountered this virus before.
And the result was just catastrophic.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine. The estimates are that smallpox killed around 25% of the entire Aztec population in a very short amount of time. And it hits right when they need to be at their strongest.
There's a quote from an Aztec survivor that it's haunting. He said they died in heaps.
It's a horrific image. People were too sick to even move, to roll over in bed.
And they starved. Not from the virus itself, but because everyone in their family was too sick to bring them food or water.
Society just breaks down. The army is decimated, the leadership is dying. It's impossible to mount a defense when your whole world is collapsing from the inside out. So we have a ruthless leader, better weapons, and a plague. But Cortés didn't just stumble into this. He had a plan, didn't he?
This is so important. He wasn't just making it up as he went along. He was following a playbook, a conquistador's formula they had already used in the Caribbean.
A formula. What are the steps?
It's a 5-step plan. 1. Land and set up a legal town. 2. Meet the locals peacefully to gather intelligence.
Find out who's in charge.
Exactly, which is step 3. Find the local power struggles. Who hates the people in charge? 4. Kidnap the leader, paralyze the state. And 5. Fight on open ground where your horses are best, then enslave the survivors.
It's cold and calculating. But step 3 seems like the trickiest part. How do you find out who hates who if you don't speak the language?
You get a translator. And this is where we meet one of the most important and controversial figures in this whole story, a woman named Malinche.
The Spanish called her Doña Marina. She was an indigenous woman given to Cortés as a slave, right?
Yes, but she had a superpower. She was a linguistic genius. She spoke Mayan, she spoke Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs, and she picked up Spanish incredibly fast.
So she's the go-between.
She was much more than that. She wasn't just translating words, she was translating culture, politics, strategy. She became his most important advisor. She's the one who uncovered plots against the Spanish. She was their spy.
And what did she help them discover?
That the Aztec Empire wasn't a monolith, it was built on conquest. The Aztecs demanded tribute taxes from all their neighbors. And worse, they demanded people for their ritual sacrifices.
So the neighbors hated them.
They hated them. So when Cortés shows up, they don't see an invader, they see a potential ally. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
So he made alliances.
He built a coalition. The Tlaxcalans, for example. After a brief fight, they joined him and gave him thousands of their own warriors to attack the Aztecs. It wasn't 500 Spanish versus an empire, it was 500 Spanish plus tens of thousands of indigenous allies.
That changes the math completely.
It changes everything.
So let's go to the end game. Moctezuma's a hostage. The Spanish massacre a bunch of nobles at a festival. The city explodes in anger.
Total chaos. Cortés tries to use Moctezuma to calm the crowd, sends him out onto a balcony.
And that's where he dies. But the accounts differ, don't they?
They do. The Spanish claim his own people threw stones and killed him. The Aztec accounts say the Spanish strangled him once he was no longer useful. We'll probably never know for sure.
The Spanish are driven out of the city in a famous defeat, the Noche Triste.
The sad night, yeah. But they don't give up. They regroup with their allies, they come back, and they lay siege to the city.
A siege. They just surrounded it and waited.
It was brutal. They cut off the aqueducts, no fresh water, they blocked the causeways, no food. For 80 days, the city starved while smallpox raged inside.
80 days.
And when they finally broke through, they just leveled the place, tore the buildings down. By the end, there were only about 60,000 starved survivors left. The Aztec Empire was gone.
So when you go back to that original question, how did 500 men do it? It's not one thing.
It's a perfect storm. It's the leadership, the weapons, the disease, and the alliances. Every piece had to be there.
And underneath it all, that clash of worldviews, the Spanish conviction that they had a right to conquer, and the Aztec hesitation, their belief in fate.
It really makes you wonder.
And that's the question I want to leave you with. We look back and it seems inevitable. But what if one thing was different? What if Moctezuma had attacked on day one?
Or the really big one? What if the peoples of the Americas had immunity to smallpox? If disease hadn't wiped out a quarter of the population, could they have fought them off?
The technology gap would have still been there, but they would have had the numbers. The world would be a completely different place.
It's a powerful thought. History isn't just a set path. It hinges on these moments, these factors, on technology, and yes, on germs.
It shows how fragile any civilization can be. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Hopefully the impossible math makes a little more sense now.
Keep asking questions.
And we'll catch you on the next one.